Hey guys, welcome back. Today is day 3 of our exponent properties, and today we're going to talk about using 0 and negative exponents. So a to the 0 power is going to be equal to 1 because anything to the 0 power is 1. So 5 to the 0, for instance, would be equal to 1. All right, a to the negative n, you take the reciprocal of a to the n. So you basically, if you have a to the negative n, it's really the same as 1 over a to the n. Or in this case, 2 to the negative 1 would be the same as 1 over 2 to the positive first, or 1/2. Okay, and it works the opposite. A to the n is the reciprocal of a to the negative n. So if we had the number 2, we could think of this as being 1 over 2 to the negative 1. They would be equivalent. Okay, that'll make a little more sense when we start doing some of the examples. So example number 1, 3 to the negative 2, I would just write this as 1 over 3 to the positive 2, and that would be 1/9. The second one is just an example of anything to the 0 power would be equal to 1. Okay, number 3, because it's to a negative exponent, I'm going to take the reciprocal of 5 over 1, and that's going to be just 5, because, or 1 over 5, the reciprocal would be 5, and then that would be to the second power instead of the negative 2, and it would be equal to 25. Example number 4 is actually undefined. Okay, so you can't have a number to a 0 to a negative exponent because a to the negative n is only defined for non-zero number a. So it doesn't work with the 0. Okay, so some examples here. Number 5 should be pretty easy. It's to the 0 power, so it's equal to 1. Number 6, we're going to set it up by just taking the reciprocal. Okay, this is going to be 1 over negative 8, and that's going to be squared. So this would be 1 over positive 64. Here we've got the reciprocal. So if we take 2 to the negative 3 and move it, take the reciprocal, we're going to have 2 to the positive 3, which would then be equal to 8. Number 8, I'm going to use the power to a power property and get 4 to the negative 4 power. I just multiplied the exponent, and that would be the same as 1 over 4 to the 4th, which would be equal to 1 over 256. Okay, number 9, the reciprocal of 1/3 would be 3, so it would just be 3 to the positive 4, which would be equal to 81. And then number 10, 6 would be, if I add negative 4 and 4, I get 6 to the 0, and 6 to the 0 would be equal to 1. Okay, so looking at a couple of examples here. Number 11, so 2x y to the negative 5, and that's going to be to the negative 3 power. So I'm going to think of power to a power, and every factor inside will get raised to the 3rd power. Okay, and when I do that, y is to the negative 15 power. Okay, so I'll evaluate 2 to the 3rd. I get 8x to the 3rd, and then y to the negative 15. Okay, so because y is to a negative power, I need to move it to the denominator because it's the reciprocal, or 1 over y. So this would become 8x to the 3rd over y to the 15th power, and that would be the answer. Okay, number 12. Okay, so we're going to go to example number 12. Okay, so with example number 12, I'm going to start out and I'm going to take this 2x to the negative 2 power. I'm going to move it to the denominator. So we've got 2x squared. I'm going to make it positive. The y to the 5th will stay up top. Okay, on the denominator, we've got negative 4. Okay, and then we've got the x squared, y squared. Okay, so that's my first step. Okay, my y to the 5th is up top. Negative 4 is going to be times 4, x squared, y squared. Okay, my y to the 5th stays up there. We've got negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th, and then y squared. And then our final step, we're going to divide y to the 5th by y to the 2nd, and we're going to get y to the 3rd, and that's going to be over negative 16 x to the 4th. And that's our final answer. Okay, so going through, you should go through and practice these problems, and probably pause right now and then go back and check your answers. I'm just going to write some of the answers up. So this would be 1 over 4 to the 3rd, which would be 1 over 64. Okay, 1 over 7 squared would be 1/49. Okay, 3 to the negative 1 would just be, negative 3 to the negative 1 would just be negative 1/3. Okay, 2 to the 0 would be equal to 1. Okay, and 1/4 to the 0 would also be equal to 1. Here we're going to take the reciprocal of 2/7 and make it 7/2 and then square it. So we get 49/4. Okay, for this we're going to get the same base, 2, so we're going to add the exponents. Negative 2 plus a negative 3 is going to be equal to a negative 5. So then we write our final answer as a positive exponent by taking the reciprocal, which would be 1/32. Okay, you can do 20 a couple of different ways. All right, if you take negative 3 and subtract 2, you're going to get 3 to the negative 5 power, which is 1/3 to the 5th, which is 1/243. All right, 21. Okay, looking at that, we've got 6 to the negative 3rd divided by 6 to the negative 2. If I take negative 3 and I subtract a negative 2, it's like adding a 2. So I end up with 6 to the negative 1, which is 1/6. Okay. 22 would be 1/x to the 4th. 23 would just be 2/y to the 3rd. Okay, for 24, we're going to start out and write the whole thing down as at the denominator and make it positive. So this would be 1/4 to the 3rd g to the 3rd, which is 1/64 g to the 3rd. Okay, that would be your answer. This would be x squared. We'll just move the y down to the denominator and make it positive. So for this one it would be 5, and then we just move the m in the end, so m to the 3rd, n to the 4th, and we would be done. Okay, here the whole thing is to the 0 power, so let's write this as 1. Okay, this would be a negative 2 minus a negative 4 would be plus 2, so it would be r squared, and that would be your final answer. So we just negative 2, all I do is say negative 2 minus a negative 4, and that's how we get that plus 2. Okay, here we have two different bases, but one is negative, so we're going to move the x5 to the denominator, and that becomes x to the 5th, y squared, and there's nothing in the numerator, so it's just 1. Number 30, when we combine, we multiply x squared times x to the 3rd, we get x to the 5th, and then when we multiply, we've got, when we multiply y to the negative 4, so we add 2, we get y to the negative 2. So when we write this out, we take the reciprocal of y to the negative 2 and make it y squared, and there's your final answer. Okay. The last three, you probably will try these, but pause the video and then come back and check your work. Okay, I'm going to set this one up where this is 4/3. The m to the negative 2, I'm just going to move to the denominator, make it positive. This is m to the 4th. This is n squared, and then this would be n to the 3rd. Okay, so all I did was take the reciprocal of each, and then now I'm going to divide. So my rule is I subtract, so I end up with 4. M is going to be to the 2nd power, n is going to be to the 1st power, and then the only thing we have on the denominator is 3. Okay, 32, we'll have 2h to the 3rd, k to the 4th, and we're going to move that j to the 3rd down to the bottom, so we're going to write this as 2jk, j to the 3rd. And then when we combine, we've got 2h to the 3rd, k to the 3rd. That's going to be, we've got a 3j, and it will be to the 4th power. And then 33, when we rewrite this, I'm going to move the 3x to the negative 2 down to the bottom. We're going to pull the negative out here, or let's see, I'm going to move that to the bottom. So 3x, make it positive. So my y to the 4th is left up top. Down on the bottom, we've got a negative x squared, so there's my x squared, and y is to the negative 6, so I'm going to move that to the numerator. Now when I combine y to the 4th times y to the 6th is y to the 10th, and then we end up with, we've got 3, this is actually to the 3rd power, whoops. So this would be negative 3 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd power, x squared. So your final answer would be y to the 10th power over negative 27, x to the 5th power. Okay. All right, thanks guys.